The Emily Carr collection of the Vancouver Art Gallery is the most important collection of Carr's work in the world. It is not the biggest, but it is, in terms of quality, it is certainly the most important. And you really can't do a Carr exhibition of any significance without borrowing from the Vancouver Art Gallery. Emily Carr is one of Canada's greatest painters. She was born in Victoria in 1871. She died there in 1945. She was as widely regarded as BC's most important painter. And she had a huge influence in the way we perceive the landscape. And her subject matter was, her two most important subject matters were the First Nations cultures of British Columbia, of which Satsunukome is one example, and then the landscape of British Columbia. And really, any painter who's looked at the landscape of BC since then has to do it through the lens of what Emily Carr's achievements were. This work is entitled Satsunukome, which is her version of what the First Nations word for the village was. And it was done in 1912 in northern British Columbia, and then brought back to her studio in Vancouver, where she worked on the larger canvas, which is called Indian House Interior with Totems. So this was obviously a totem that appealed to her. She was inspired by its grandeur, the sort of great, spread wings, which would support the ceiling of the longhouse. But she used this as a ways to give people some sense of the passing lives of these people, because of course there was a sense that this culture was disappearing. Fortunately for us, it didn't disappear, but particularly amongst the Kwakwaka'wakw. But Carr didn't know that at the time, and so she felt this sort of sense of documentary evidence would be important for the future of British Columbia. She went out for a good chunk of the summer of 1912 when she produced this particular work, and because of course there wasn't a BC ferry system, there wasn't buses, there wasn't trains there weren't trains available. She had to sort of hitch rides with people. She had to get people to take her into abandoned villages. She had to ask permission to sketch in various Indian sites, and she didn't speak the languages of many of these people and so on. So it was an adventurous thing to do. And then to bring all that material back to her studio in Vancouver, and then create a very large group of canvases with the hope that people who didn't really appreciate this aspect of British Columbia's cultures and history, they would appreciate it in a renewed fashion. Unfortunately, it took a long time for the majority of the population to catch up to Emily Carr. Well, she was a remarkable individual, and I mean, not only was she a highly significant artist, she was also a very good writer. I mean, her first book, she won the Governor General's Medal in 1941. So there's not too many people who have levels of skill on both sides. She was also a fiercely independent individual. I mean, much of her work was done by herself out in extremely inclement conditions. I mean, a single woman traveling in northern British Columbia, where they were, by herself with maybe her little dog, it was a pretty daring thing to do. She certainly is regarded as one of the most important women artists in the 20th century. And I mean, she's been included in exhibitions with people like George O'Keeffe and Frida Kahlo and so on, because she is of that kind of caliber.